Hi, how you doing? This is Mike Peace with one of my first YouTube videos, and I want to show you today how to do a angel ornament. This is a great little spindle project. It's a cool project to enhance your skew skills. I won't take credit for the design. The design came from Eugene Schlack of Ontario, Canada. My plans, or my approach, might deviate from his a little bit. I've made hundreds of them, and they both work. Size-wise, you can start with a block somewhere around 4.5 inches long and 1 3/4 to 2 inches in diameter. Smaller stock also works. If you want something a little smaller, you probably want to turn it between centers, put a tenon on it, and fit it in an appropriate size chuck to hold that tenon with tailstock support. But in this case, since we're going to use a little larger block, we're going to go ahead and chuck up this block in a 4-jaw chuck and then turn it round, and we'll go to the next step. So now let me adjust the camera. Okay, I'm back. I've moved the tailstock up for additional support. I brought up the tool rest. I turn it round by hand to make sure nothing's going to bump, and we're going to go ahead and round this off with spindle roughing gouge. Since this is a small project and it's supported, I've got it up around 2,000. Okay, now that we've got it round, we're going to start our skew practice. Since that's one of the purposes of this is a skew exercise, we're going to first mark off the head by putting a V-cut. This is pretty hard wood. This is dry brass and pear. It's sitting in my shop for a little while. Make a nice deep V-cut. Try not to take off too much at a time. We're going to cut this down to where the neck is maybe a 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch, no deeper than that. Then we take a peeling cut. I don't use the full length of the blade. This is a 3/4 inch skew. Take off just a little bit at a time, being careful not to get into the live center. And I think we'll go a little bit deeper on the neck. Try to take a smooth cut there on the collar. Now this is basically a bead, so we're going to practice turning a bead. Again, this is a great skew exercise. You'll hear me say that again. And you have to lift, push, and rotate. When we finish with this, you want to be in the perpendicular position. It pays to just catch a little ruffle and keep controlling it. Don't ever back up. Once you got it, keep on going. Don't ever back up, or it will catch. Just a tiny little bit of Alright, so we made this neck a little thin. We're going to come back, being careful not to catch the toe. We're going to use the heel and finish rounding on this side, being careful not to control it carefully, not go into the live center. Now look at that, it looks a little like a pumpkin, not a good shape. So we're going to go ahead and take a peeling cut, take a little more down. An oval shape tends to look a little better for the head, in my opinion. In effect, I think of a skew sometimes as a tiger. You think you got him domesticated, but if you don't control him and watch him very carefully, he will bite you. You got to keep a firm grip on it. And ride that bevel. Okay, there's the bead. Next thing we're going to do is take a V-cut here for the wings / arms. Now we make a V-cut. Again, hardwood or softwood, try not to take off too much at a time. You're generally going straight and ease it down with that V. I think it's time for me to sharpen my skew. But we're going to muscle through it. I know I shouldn't do that. But with this videotape, I'm going to do that. Next, we'll pick up a parting tool. This is a Harbor Freight tool. We're going to come down to about where the bottom of the angel is going to be. Part down just enough where we can really differentiate, identify where the bottom of that's going to be. We're going to use a spindle rough and gouge to just peeling cut, just removing some of this waste. Come back to the skew. And in effect, we're going to do a nice curved skirt, give it some nice shape. Ease off of it a little bit, change the profile, so it's a continuous curve. Now, here's where you want to take that last cut, take a nice, smooth, slow plane cut to minimize the sanding. Make it stop. Now, we've got a little bit of a break right there, or that was actually the edge of the board. That's all right. That's going to be the front of the angel, so that won't be a problem. So now we're going to slow the lathe down. And we're going to go ahead and sand it. I've got a nice surface here, I think I can start with 240. If you have to start with something slower until you practice your skew skills, that's okay. These long, narrow strips of sanding paper get from Klingsport, one of their bargain boxes. This is great if you do a lot of spindle work. They send you cut-offs from their rolls where it's got a cloth backing, so it works out real well. And then we're going to finish up with a 400. And then it doesn't hurt, come do it parallel with the grain. You sand to the appropriate finish that you got with a skew. In my case, I sanded with 240 and 400. Then I followed up with a buffing compound called U-Butte Triple E, a product from Australia which I really like. It's red color. It's like the Triple E bar that you have with the Beal buffing system in a tallow compound, and it really makes this smooth and finishes it up. After I finished sanding it, you didn't need to see the sanding anyway, I used a friction polish. You might use on a pen, 2 coats to get it nice and polished. Now I'm going to go ahead and part it off. Usually for smaller items like this, a lot of times I use my small parting tool, 1/16 of an inch tool. Get them down around 1200. Don't let it pinch, come back. Make the slot a little bit wider. And I reach over it carefully. I concave it up slightly. Okay, now we're going to set that aside. And we're going to now make the halo out of the scrap. So we're going to go ahead and finish it. Rounding this off. Now, how thick to make the angel? It depends, but I would say larger than the head and then smaller than the body. Go ahead and smooth that up just a little bit. Facing cut. We don't want to leave that rough edge that we would have gotten with the parting tool. Slowly does it. And before I finish sanding, I'm going to knock off this edge a little bit. We're going to come back here and bring it part way down, enough to support it. And how thick to make these? I would say maybe 3/16 of an inch. Too small and they have a tendency to break when you're packaging or rough handling. Okay, the edge off. And then take that out of the way. Go ahead and take this tailstock out of the way. With the live center right. And we'll sand again with our 2 grits. We'll go through the same process we missed earlier, and that is take a little bit of kitchen towel, fold it over, get just the tiniest little bit, takes very little, this triple E, rub it in, rub it on before you start the lathe. And you want to get this up to pretty good speed, maybe 1800, 2000. And you can just see what a fine shine this is. It in effect, I think I said, takes the last grit and just about doubles it or triples it. Then we're going to grab the friction polish. And what I do is usually take this same one that I used, fold it inside out so you got a fresh edge. Again, rub it on, make sure it gets on all the surfaces. Turn the lathe on, again about the same speed, 1800. And friction it in real good, it'll get hot. Alcohol will flash off. I like to put on 2 coats for the angel and the halo. Give it a really glass shine when it does that. And as you can see, be careful with your fingers. You don't press too hard, you slip into the chuck jaws. Good reason for having an optimum size tenon where the jaws are not out so too far that they're going to catch you. Spin it, make sure you're not going to catch. Small parting tool. Bring it up around 1200. And I just catch it. And we've got them turned. Next step. Okay, what I normally do with these is I turn 1 or 2 and then I just throw them in a bowl. In this case, a plastic bowl. I throw them in a bowl. I throw the halos in a bowl. until I get a sizable number, and then I'll go through this process of going through the sanding. So let me demonstrate that real quick as I move these out of the way. The sanding operation involves about 3 steps. We knock off this little nib that's usually left from parting off with a corner here, or maybe touching it flat. Then we knock off this little nib, being very carefully hold it. I usually catch it on this corner and rotate it a little bit, like so. And then we come in there, and remember I said we had a little damage section. This is going to be the front, so we're going to do that. I catch it right here on the corner and push it in carefully until I get it without scratching this side or this side. So let's do that real quick. And we're done. Okay, so now that we've got the angels turned, as I suggested, I like to wait till I get a batch of them to glue up, because it does take a little while. I like to use regular carpenter's glue. Tight bond is good. The other thing I like to do is I like to mix and match contrasting halos. Spalted wood is especially good. So I assemble a bunch of them. Just use a little acid brush. Glue them up, put a little dab on the halo, let it get into pores, a little dab on the top, go on to the next one, do a bunch of them. After I get them glued up, you got to give them at least 45 minutes or so to dry, and after we get them dried, I'm going to show you how we put the screw eye in it. But meanwhile, so we glue this thing up, kind of look at it sideways to say, do we have it balanced? Slide it back just a little bit. And just kind of play with them until they look good before you set them down and go to the next one. Alright, after they're dry, I'll meet you back at the lathe. Okay, so to drill the hole, I like to put this very fine drill bit in a Jacob's chuck, and it works well with this nice little tiny little screw eye. You can get these from a couple of different sources. I get these from Peachtree Woodworking. I'll show their contact information on the screen. You can get them in nickel or brass. You had to do that. First thing I do is take an awl and find the center point. Just make a little starter hole so it'll be nice and safe. Turn this on to a pretty reasonable speed, maybe somewhere close to 1,000, and then I just line it up to that starter hole and push it straight in, and then pull it straight out. Turn it off and take the tiny little screw eye. If you don't drill the hole in advance, you'll wind up breaking these screw eyes. They're not real super strong, because they don't go that deep. Another approach, if you don't like to use this approach, is get your little pin vise. Do the same thing. Just drill them by hand. Now, what I like to do afterwards is I like to put a little fine piece of ribbon like this on them. I used to get this from Michael's. I'm not sure if they still sell it, but it had 3 colors. It had silver, red, and gold. Excuse me. And then when I'd finished, I would package it up. I would stick the finished angel in a little snack bag with a little excuse me, possibly with my business card, depending on who the recipient is, or a nice a quotation, and I'll post this, overprint this so you can follow it. Luke 2:10. Very nice, a little touch to it, and then you package them up and set them aside. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, check out my blog spot. Here's the information where I have other wood turning resources, including some available downloads of some articles I've published and access to a couple of links for a couple more videos that are posted on the Gwinnett Woodworker site. Thank you for watching.